Hello, everyone. Good evening and welcome to Ladbroke Hall, the home of Carpenters Workshop Gallery here in London. My name is Tamara Platisha and I'm the head of jewelry here at Carpenters. It's my pleasure to welcome all of you here today for this very special evening with jewelry designer Jacqueline Rabun and Rachel Garrahan. Today, we will be hearing about how Jacqueline's style has evolved over time across locations like Los Angeles, London, and Copenhagen, and how transformations in the luxury and culture landscape have impacted the aesthetics and business of jewelry. Tonight's conversation centers around finding one's voice, an exploration of the importance for designers to reach inward and tap into their authenticity and creativity to develop a visual language that is unmistakably their own. As many of you may know, Carpenters Workshop Gallery specializes in the intersection between art, design, and craftsmanship. And we produce and exhibit limited edition works by internationally acclaimed artists, designers, and architects looking to extend past the confines of traditional gallery and art fair spaces. Jewelry also forms a vital part of the gallery's work in pushing the boundaries between conventional artistic genres and championing the finest in contemporary creativity. Our jewelry artists represent and work in a multitude of approaches, materials, aesthetics, representing the remarkable richness of today's contemporary jewelry design and wearable art, and are always pushing the boundaries of how the body can be adorned. On that note, tonight, I'm delighted to introduce you all to LA-based jewelry designer Jacqueline Rabun, who will be discussing her remarkable career to date with the jewelry and luxury and culture journalist Rachel Garrahan. Jacqueline is an internationally renowned designer who seeks to illustrate the human experience through the medium of jewelry. Her poetic approach to design combines fluid forms with philosophy and spirituality, resulting in a phenomenal impact worldwide. In 1990, Jacqueline launched her debut jewelry collection, Raw Elegance, which explores purity of precious materials through hand-sculpted organic forms. And more recently, her collection Metanoia was made exclusively for Carpenters Workshop Gallery and was met with instant acclaim amongst art and design collectors. These works, along with 300 others, were exhibited here at Ladbroke Hall in 2023 for her incredible retrospective. Rachel Garrahan is a writer, curator, and creative consultant with over 2 decades of experience in the fields of jewelry, watches, luxury, and culture. She's currently jewelry and watch director at EE72, a next-generation global media and entertainment brand rooted in radical inclusivity. Rachel is also a contributor to media like British Vogue, Tatler, Vanity Fair, New York Times, Financial Times, and was the curator at the Victoria and Albert Museum working on the Sellout exhibition Cartier in 2025. This event here forms an ongoing part of our series that we do at Ladbroke Hall with remarkable figures in the art and design world. We're honored to have all of you here today for tonight's edition and to hear these 2 leading talents in the jewelry landscape. So thank you again for joining us, and I'll hand it over to you, Rachel.
Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us this evening. Thank you most of all to Jacqueline. Welcome back to Carpenters Workshop in London. It's really wonderful to have you here. Thank you. So Tamara's done my introduction for me, which is very kind of her. So we can move straight into questions.
Okay, let's have fun.
Yes.
Yeah.
I wanted to start at the beginning because I feel that's always a great way to get to know somebody. And I know that you were born in Germany and grew up in America. Or is that right? Were you?
I was born in Germany because my father was in the military, and so we moved around a lot. And we lived in the U.S., but most importantly, I grew up in Alaska for a short spell. Yeah, which was very interesting. Experience for a young person, and then we moved to California back to California. And there I went to high school, and I stayed there for another 10 years in Los Angeles. And then I moved to London.
And that was in 1990s, around that time, or end of the 80s that you came to London?
London was 90.
Yeah.
Yes.
And when you were growing up and you were living in these different places, what were the sort of formative cultural experiences you had? What were you inspired by growing up?
I think being African American, music was the great inspiration. I grew up in the 70s, born in the 60s, grew up in the 70s, and music was very healing at that time. And so that was, music's my biggest inspiration. It was sort of the background noise in our home, and it's kind of amazing. I thought about it today, how so much incredible music, so many amazing love ballads were made in that time when, the odds were sort of against us. So that was very important and very inspiring to see people, moving forward despite, what we were experiencing. Yes.
Yeah. Another artist that you admired then that you still enjoy today, whether it's in music or in anything else?
Also literature as well, because we have amazing writers. Like Maya Angelou is a great inspiration, not just to me, but like all women, I think, in particular. Sure. There's so many. James Baldwin, and I was particularly inspired by African Americans that went to Europe to free themselves and to find freedom to express their artistry. And that was really important for me, because then I knew that was something that I could do. I didn't know I'd be living here, but in my mind I thought, oh, yes, it's possible.
Yeah.
It's possible to be free.
They showed you a way.
They showed me a way, for sure.
And were you creative growing up? Were you, doing art and design at school? Or was that something that you discovered later on?
It was more at home. So my mother was a seamstress, so she literally taught me how to sew. I don't know if I still know how, but anyway. So she taught me how to sew, and so I spent a lot of time, being creative. One of her best friends was a painter, so she taught me how to paint. So it was all in my home that I became creative.
And you studied fashion design initially?
I did. That was interesting. I just knew that I wasn't strong enough for that world.
In what sense?
I think because I was very shy and very introverted, and I felt like with fashion you needed to be really expressive in a way that at that time I couldn't be.
Yeah. So how did you come to the world of jewellery?
By accident. I was living in Los Angeles, and I was taking a stroll down Sunset Plaza. I don't know if anyone knows it. I guess some people do. And I discovered this beautiful jewelry gallery called M Gallery, and I walked in and I could not believe that such a thing existed, because I'd never seen it before. So it was a beautiful gallery with basically miniature wearable sculptures. And I was totally taken in by it. And I started talking to the owner of the gallery, Michael Dawkins, and he was impeccable. He looked a bit like an old Hollywood actor, actually. And everything around him was beautiful, the shop, the packaging, everything. And I just said, I want to come and work for you. And he said, when can you start? I said, tomorrow. And I did. And that's literally how it started.
Fantastic. Mm. And did you learn a lot from him, or from the jewelers that were working with him?
I learned more from him because he had impeccable taste, and he was very discerning, and he really just taught me how to kind of strip things back and get to the essence of good design. Yeah, he was incredible.
Did you start designing jewelry when you were
I
there?
did. I did. I started designing, and I would ask the jewelers, okay, where can I get something cast? You know, how can I do this? I got very nosy with the jewelers whenever they came in. And slowly but surely, I sort of figured it out one step at a time. And yeah, so I'm completely self-taught. I knew I didn't want to train. I knew that that wasn't for me, although I think it's incredible if you have the patience to do it. But I just knew it wasn't for me.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And there was, I mean, I don't know if there still is, but there was a lot of jewelry manufacturing in Los Angeles.
Yes.
Right? Places where you could go to have
There still is.
your creations made.
Yeah. I don't think they're as good as here in Europe, but there is.
Yeah. So then came the move to London.
Mm-hmm.
And it was here that you launched your first collection,
Yes.
I'm right?
Yes.
And that's Raw Elegance, which I'm sure we'll see coming round in the
It'll come
images.
round, yes.
But can you tell me about the inspiration for that collection? That was in 1990?
1990, yes. That collection was, I mean, at that time, all the pieces were hand sculpted. So I would hand sculpt every piece from clay, and then take these hand sculpted pieces and have them cast and, you know, create jewelry. I mean, it's raw elegance for a reason. It was raw, and I was raw as well. But it really taught me a lot about, you know, it was my early days, and it really taught me a lot about jewelry. And that kind of body of work is interesting because when I arrived here, you know, living in California, it's not as multicultural as it is in London, especially in those days. And so suddenly I was interacting with people from Africa, like all sorts of people that I didn't interact with in LA because there weren't very many. But so when you look at that collection now, when I look back, it's been inspired by, you know, African culture, African art, but it's also, you know, taken a little bit, there's chains in the collection, so it's taking a little bit from the punk era that was long gone when I arrived. But it's sort of elements of London culture within that collection.
And it was very successful.
It was.
Right away, right?
It was, right away.
What do you think, why do you think that was? Was it good timing for that kind of aesthetic, for that look?
I think it was timing. I also think my let's say my spirit was in the right place, because everything is about alignment. It's not just the work that has to be good. It's like you need to be good too. And I think everything just was perfectly aligned. That's the only way I can describe it, because it took off very quickly and it was all very organic.
And in some ways, as a creative person, is that hard, you know, when you're successful quickly in a new field? Do you feel like you need to sort of catch up to that, or did you feel prepared for it?
I don't think I was prepared for it, to be honest. I just let it happen. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, I definitely wasn't prepared. I wasn't prepared to even move here. But everything was just very, very organic.
Yeah. Mm. And you were stocked by Colette.
Yes.
Barney's.
That was my first stockist, and
I mean, that's a badge of honor right there.
In those
days. In those days, it was
for
huge.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. And later on, you started working with George Jensen. I'm going to say it the English way. Sorry, you'll say it the right way.
Is it okay if we say it the English way? We'll say it the English way.
Apologies to all Danish people. How was that as an experience?
At that time, I was very, I was designing, but I was also running a business. And anyone that's independent here knows what that means. And I think I was very, very ready to have a different experience. And I was also ready to go deeper into my work. And when you run a business, you've got so many hats on that it's almost impossible to sit still and contemplate about ideas. And So, do you want me to tell the story?
Yes,
Okay.
please.
So I was in Paris visiting two friends, and they said, "Oh, we're going to invite a friend," and it was the photographer Mark and he came. We had dinner, and he just said, "I know the people at George Jensen. Would you like to design for them?" And it was crazy because it was the company that I was so loved, and so loved the history, and so loved the designers and the philosophy and the culture and everything. And I said, yes, of course. And so the next day, the CEO called me. I don't think this would happen today, but and then the next day, I went to Copenhagen, and then the next day, they came to London, and then the next day, I started. So thank God it's not today. My Instagram following isn't big enough for that.
It was meant to be.
It was meant to be, yeah.
And they have a history of working with designers, don't they? Many
do.
different designers.
In particular, women.
Yeah.
They have a very strong history of working with incredible women.
Who are some of the women who'd worked there that you were inspired by?
Well, Viviana Torun, for sure. I was really inspired by her. I was inspired by her story. I was inspired by her struggle. I mean, I just the whole.
I don't know how
incredible.
many of you are familiar with Viviana Torun, but she was a hugely successful designer for them. But she had struggles in her life, didn't she?
She did. She was incredibly talented, and she was married to an African-American musician, and they lived in Paris, and she made jewelry for Billie Holiday, and she was just this incredible woman. And I was lucky enough to have the chance to meet her just before she passed away, when George Jensen had a centenary in 2004. And she walked into the room with, in those days you'd have like a press day, and or you still do, but it was kind of in a different way. But anyway, she walked into the room, and the whole room went quiet. She was in a wheelchair, very ill at the time, and it was just, she had such an incredible energy, even when she wasn't well. And that's one of the highlights of my career for sure, is meeting her just before she passed away.
And what did you talk about?
I think I didn't say anything.
Yeah, you were speechless.
I just sort of like was with my eyes, and she big, and there was a big exhibition. We had the centenary, so there was a big exhibition, and she said to me, "Do you want to walk around the exhibition with me?" And I said, yes, of course. So it was me, her daughter, Marcia, just the three of us in the big empty museum, walking around the exhibition. It was
a special
really,
moment.
It was really special.
You've talked about your career as being the long journey. And one of the things I think is extraordinary about Jacqueline's work is how immediately recognisable it is, and how she's really talking about the human condition through these pieces that we wear as talismans, as protection. How important do you think it was to establish your voice as a designer early on? Do you think that's something that I'm sure it evolves over time, but you need a strong starting point?
Oh, this is a difficult one. Michael, help. Wow, that's a good question. I do think that your energy has to be in the right place, because it's about being magnetic, for sure, and being open to, situations that you would never, ever expect. But I do think your energy has to be right. That's not easy to do.
And is it about, you've talked to me before about giving yourself time to listen to that voice inside,
yes,
rather than getting too distracted?
Yes.
What do you advise? Because I know you do a lot of mentoring
Yes.
now with younger
Yes.
designers.
Yes.
how do you advise them to do that? And do you think it's even harder for them now because there's so much?
I do think it's harder, for sure. There's a lot more designers, you know, than when I started, and, you know, Michael's here, and, you know, when he started, and I think there's a lot more voices out there. I just think you have to tap in to something that's very unique, and perhaps something that's missing, but at the same time, something that people recognize. So it's a really tricky balance. But, you know, for example, you're working with spheres, but how do you take a sphere and communicate it in a way that's really unexpected? And it could be a very simple change, but it changes everything.
And obviously, the best designs in many ways, and I'd say this is a characteristic of your work, are simple.
Yes.
Right? They are, when you're making a complex idea or a vision into something simple and easily understood. But that's hard.
It is very hard.
Yeah.
Well, it gets easier as you go along. But I think I wouldn't say hard, it's challenging.
Yeah.
Mm.
And is that over time you develop an instinct to what's going to work?
You do. Yeah, and you can feel it. You sort of contemplating ideas, and when you least expect it, the right idea comes, and it could be anywhere, anytime, and you know it. You feel it in your gut, and then you go through the motions of bringing it to life.
Yeah. Let me just look at my questions. How important is that idea of jewellery as a talisman to you? Is that how you wear your own jewellery? And is that something?
I think it's very important. And I think that I do wear my jewellery that way. I wear the same jewellery every single day. Every single piece has a meaning. Every single piece is a form of protection for me. I can't walk out the door without it. I'm sure everybody has had that experience with their own jewelry. Perhaps it was given to you by a family member or maybe a grandparent, which makes it even more emotional attachment to it. Jewelry is very powerful in that way. Not all jewelry, but it can be.
It carries a lot of emotion, doesn't it? And memories.
And memories.
People. Yeah. And when you are designing, do you start with an idea that you want to communicate or with a form in mind, or does it depend?
It depends. It can go either way. It could be a feeling as well.
Yeah. Because I was saying to you earlier that I feel there's so much about cocoons and caves and eggs in your work. This, like you were saying, this kind of playing with the sphere and these... there's such rich symbols of things.
Yes.
Does that mean that those are something that you can return to again and again in your work?
For sure. I can, the sphere, I think, there's a lot that you can say and sort of speak about with that form. So I do return to it. I
wonder if we talk about some of the pieces up
sure.
on the...
Yeah.
Up on the display.
Okay.
We'll have to turn slightly. This is a recent piece.
This is recent, so it's moving fast.
Yeah. Well, we can talk
Okay.
about that collection maybe.
Okay.
Because we touched on it earlier before we sat up here. This is a collection that you're revisiting after
I'm
some time.
revisiting the Cave collection, which was one of the first collections that I launched with George Jensen in 2001, and it was very successful. But I now own the rights to it, and so I decided to revisit it, and I have expanded it, soon to be launched. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah. Great.
Yeah.
And is it a very different experience coming back to that collection 25 years later?
No.
No, it's the same.
No, I think it's one of my favorite collections, and it also is like such a symbol of that moment when I started designing for George Jensen, which was for me like a kind of dream come true in a way. You know, it was perfect timing because I didn't want to run a business, and I just wanted to focus on the creativity. So it was perfect timing.
Was it one of the first collections you did for them?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. It was Cave and Offspring. We launched them both at the same time. In fact, I presented Offspring to them first. I always do more than I'm asked to do, just in case.
Yeah.
And so I also presented Cave to them as well, and they decided to launch both collections.
Amazing. And with Cave, since we're on that subject,
Yes.
you've branched out into different non-jewellery,
I have.
which
Yes.
you've done at different times throughout your career. But
Yes.
how is it to do that? To think about these objects as opposed to something that you wear.
Depends on what it is. So with jewelry, there are some boundaries because you've got to work with the body, and the pieces have to complement, the human form and not sort of overpower.
This is it, I think, isn't it?
Yes. So this is the Cave cutlery that I designed for an exhibition that was held last week called Knife, Fork and Spoon. And so it was the first time that I showed at 3 days of design in Copenhagen. And so this, I just felt like it was the right direction to go for my first experience designing cutlery. It's very different because I'm used to working with the human body, but now you really have to have some parameters when you're designing cutlery. It has to function.
It has to work.
It has to work.
Yes.
Yeah.
But that must be stimulating in a different way, no? That you can you take these ideas and push them in a different direction.
Yeah, no, I really, really enjoyed it. I'm really lucky because I work with an amazing 3D CAD designer who's here, and he really helps me to communicate my ideas.
Yeah. And with something like that, with a totally new design, are
Mhm.
you doing it on paper first, then moving to the CAD, then moving to a mock-up or
Yes.
a dummy version?
Yes, so it's drawings first, then we move into the CAD design, and then we create the prototypes.
Yeah. And with cutlery, presumably that's about having the right kind of weight.
Right, the right weight, the right proportions as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
It has to function. I have at home the Arne Jacobsen cutlery, which is so beautiful, but the fork is super narrow, so it's like a whole performance when you're eating. I've gotten used to it now because I've had it for like 20 years, but it's special. It's special to eat with, for sure. I didn't want to make life too complicated for people, so I didn't do that, but it's really beautiful.
Yeah.
Mm.
And do you enjoy marrying the kind of aesthetic and the conceptual and the practical in your
Yes,
work?
yes.
Yeah.
I have to. You have to with jewelry.
Yeah.
Because there is a practical side of commercial jewelry, like the pieces I designed for Jensen. They have to be commercial. They have to be a certain scale, especially when when you're selling in Asia. Jewelry is typically much smaller in proportion, so there is a lot to think about.
Mm. And has that collaboration with them, and you've done collaborations with Carpenters and other people too, is that an enriching experience? Does it free some elements of your creativity but close other doors? Like how another designer told me that they find it actually stimulating to their own work, but I don't know how you find it.
I find it stimulating, and I find it freeing, and it also gives me the opportunity to go a lot deeper.
Mm.
And maybe work a bit slower as well. I mean, before I was doing this collaboration, I was showing, during Fashion Week in Paris, and that was really, it was okay, But for me, somehow jewelry and showing in the context of fashion at that time didn't make sense. Because jewelry can last for a lifetime,
Yeah.
and fashion is seasons.
Yeah. It's still an issue now.
It's still an issue. So I was
Many-
happy. I was
for
happy
many
to move
jewellers.
away from that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was very
So
happy.
that partnership with George Jensen freed you to
Yes,
yes concentrate on that rather than
yes.
yeah. And then creatively, does it, are there things that you feel aren't Jacqueline Rabun but they would work for George Jensen? Is it stimulating in that way as well?
I think it all would work for them,
Mm.
actually. Yeah, I mean, after 25 years, I think my language has sort of merged so much into the brand that I think any of my collections could be for them, for sure.
Mm-hmm. For you, is timelessness an important quality of design?
Definitely.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I didn't like about being in, let's say, the fashion space and designing jewelry, because it's all about what's next, what's new. And I think that if you design very well, it can last a lifetime.
Yeah.
There's nothing to change.
You can wear it any time.
You can wear it any time.
Yeah. And how about the role of craftsmanship? Do you work closely with the people making your pieces and getting that right?
I do. I work more closely with the people making my own pieces, of course, because at George Jensen they have a team of people that, sort of once the designs are handed off, then the designs are, then the whole part development process takes place. I'm involved in it, but obviously not as much as with my own work.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. How important, you've got the creativity side, but the editing of your own work, was that something that you had from the beginning, or did that develop over time? You were saying what you learned from Michael is that simplifying and taking away.
Yes. It developed over time, for sure.
Mm.
And now, after, I think I've been designing for 35, 40 years. I'm going to say 35. Just because I'm aging myself.
Not bad for a 21-year-old.
Thank you. And so, I mean, now it's so second nature for me now, obviously. I mean, after doing it for so long, I know the designers here would say the same, that it's second nature. Michael, I keep getting you involved, but but it just becomes second nature, for sure.
Yeah. And with your relationship with Carpenters, they had the fantastic retrospective for you
Yes.
in 2023.
Yes.
How has that been, and tell me about Metanoia collection and how that came to be? Yeah.
It came, like most of my work, in a dream. And when I say in a dream, I don't mean a sleeping dream, an awake dream. This idea of metanoia, and I was going through it as well. I was living here in London, but I was also really ready for change. And I was thinking, where can I go? And I thought, I'm going to go home. I'm going to California. And metanoia is about taking the right to make changes. And it's almost like a spiritual journey, that idea of a huge transformation that I really, really needed at that time. And so that's what metanoia is about. It's about,
Well, it's quite unusual for your collections in that it's using materials other than metal.
Yes.
What attracted you to using? Is it the rutilated quartz?
It's rutilated quartz, yes. I just like all the imperfections in that stone, because the stone inside the pieces, it's kind of a mirror of us. We're not perfect. We have flaws. We have imperfections. And when you look into the windows of the metanoia piece, you see all these imperfections. And that's why I chose the stone.
Yeah.
Mm.
And it's so incredibly beautiful.
Thank you.
know. Yeah, I
Thank
really
you.
love that collection. This I wanted to ask you about. That's a letter opener and a magnifying glass.
Yes.
Is that right?
That's the shape of our son's. I'm getting you involved now. Eye. When he was little. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. So it's called Look and Open.
Okay.
And it's exactly the shape of his eye.
That's what
An eyebrow.
inspired. Yeah.
So it's quite sentimental.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
And did you do that when he was young?
No, I did it when he was around 12, but I used pictures of when he was a baby. A young child, yeah.
And these are nesting boxes?
Yes.
Another non-jewelry collection?
Yes.
Can you tell us about that?
Yes, I worked on this project with Nina. She has a beautiful gallery, Sigmar, and that was for, help me? No? Wallpaper, but the exhibition in Milan. Sorry. I'm glad you can't remember as well. Help! I can't remember.
It's more about an idea. You know, it was not about let's make a product. It was about doing something different,
Yes,
and it was about trying it out.
yes.
Yeah.
So it was exploring an idea, and we showed it at Salone in Milan.
I think there was like Trump just got elected, and there was lots of things going on.
There was a lot happening. Yeah.
So they're nesting boxes? Do they sit in each other?
They can do, but I should say we produced it with Carl Albuck, and they are known for a very beautiful little egg that they have in their collection, and so it was taking a little inspiration from that, but creating these nesting boxes.
Yeah. Well, and again, it goes back to your sphere, your spheres and
Yes.
eggs and so on.
Yes.
Why do you think that's such a potent shape for you? Such a potent idea, even for you?
I think because I'm always trying to evolve in life. That's my thing. I mean, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But the egg is about birth and transformation and sort of reinventing yourself in some ways.
Mm-hmm.
And so, my first collection with George Jensen, Offspring, is based on an egg form. So that just keeps coming
Keep
back
going
in my
back.
work. Yeah.
And stimulating new ideas
Yes.
and so on. Yeah. Talking about living in London and Los Angeles, you've lived in a number, you've lived in these places, but also spent a lot of time in Copenhagen and time in Dakar and Lagos in Nigeria. How important is place to you?
I think it's really important because I think it's the energy of a place, but it's also the people you encounter that inspire you and help you to move forward with your creativity. I'm not sure if LA is the place, but but life took me there, and I'm there, and there's something very interesting about being there, but something obviously very stressful about being there at the same time.
Yeah. Well, it must have changed so much since you lived there
Oh yeah.
before.
Oh yeah. A lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. When I first moved back, I felt like a stranger, obviously. But then I just, you sort of get into it.
You find your rhythm.
You find your rhythm,
Yeah.
for sure.
And I don't know if any of you have seen Jacqueline's homes. I've only been lucky enough to go to one of them, but it was a very beautiful space, your
The
home in London. Yeah.
space, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is being in the right environment for you an important part of, being ready to design or being stimulated?
Very much so.
Yeah.
I mean, I also can design in a shoebox as well, but I can sort of design anywhere. But when I have to go deeper, it is important for me to have the right space, but also the right energy within that space in order to create, for sure.
And how about in Lagos, Nigeria, has been a place that you've spent time recently?
Recently,
Right,
yes.
Yeah. Have you seen that expressed in your work? You know, do you get stimulated by something or inspired by something when you're there, or is it more when you look back and you say, oh, you know, this is what was
It
going
usually
on at the
comes
time?
later. It comes later. But I spent some time going back and forth to Dakar, and that was very inspiring and very interesting. And I mean, the people are so incredibly elegant there, and the way they move through the city is just, that really changed me when I
Yeah.
was spending time there, for sure.
Are you inspired by those places by architecture as well, or
Architecture,
art and design?
art and
Could be
design.
anything.
Yeah, in particular the clothing, especially there.
Can you give us some examples?
Well, they typically wear traditional in Senegal because it's Muslim. So typically they wear traditional, but they don't necessarily cover the head, the women. So it's kind of a little bit more a little bit freer Islam. Not quite sure how to say that, but yeah, the people are beautiful and graceful and elegant, and you can't help but get inspired when you're there.
Yeah, inspired by beauty.
Yeah.
Yeah. And talking about the stressful side of living in any city, but Los Angeles being
Yes.
the one where you are now, how affected are you by what's going on in the wider world?
I was definitely affected when, you know, the new president took office. I was definitely affected by that, and I think everyone was. I'm really maybe fortunate that I live in a bubble. I work from home. I interact with people, but not very much. So I fortunately don't have to face it. I think if I was going into an office, I think it'd be very difficult because those will be the conversations. You know, ICE might arrive at the door to, you know, take people away and all that kind of stressful stuff that goes on. But having said that, there is something that I'm finding right now is nourishing about being there. Don't know how long it's going to last, but you know, for now it is.
And your family is.
My
there
son
too,
is there, yes, and I have 2 grandchildren there, and they're so amazing. But anyway,
They give you some hope.
they do. Actually, having them there makes a big difference because, you know, you don't concentrate on the negative as much, obviously, when there's 2 small children around.
Their innocence can be quite infectious.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Sustaining.
Sustaining, yes.
And just looking back over your 21 years, you know, you're being 21 again, looking back to when you started, how much do you think the jewellery world has changed?
Oh, it's night and day. So when I started, luxury brands didn't have jewelry collections. Not really. I think maybe Chanel had theirs, but really they didn't. And then there's a sudden focus on, you know, every luxury brand having jewelry in their business. And so that's changed a lot. There's a lot more jewelry designers in the space. It's quite crowded. So
but that's why it's important to develop that voice.
You do.
You think?
You have to develop a strong voice, especially now.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. And how about the role of women in jewellery or in creativity generally? Is that changed at all?
I think jewelry is one of the spaces where you have the most, let's say, creative directors working for luxury brands. Tiffany, for example, Cartier, Bulgari, we can go on and on, but typically there's a woman who has the role of the creative director.
That's a good thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are there any other designers that you particularly admire working today?
Well,
You can pass on that one.
I admire designers that aren't with us anymore, typically. So, like Viviana Torun, I really admire her. Henning Koppel, the Danish silversmith, I really love his work. That's a good question.
Yeah.
Michael is here. I love his work. Yeah.
And today, do you think there's more commercial pressure on
I do.
designers?
Absolutely. I'm so glad I'm not starting today.
Yeah.
I think it'd be really tough, if I'm really honest. I think you'd really have to stand out today because it's very crowded.
And do you think things like social media and Instagram can be a help or a hindrance?
I think
to
they're a big help.
creativity?
I don't know how you would reach so many people without it. I think it's really important.
Yeah. And my final question, is there value in making mistakes,
Yes,
do you think?
I've made so many. Oh my God. Wow. Let's not even get started. But I've made a lot of mistakes. But the great thing is, like, when you arrive at this chapter of life and you're sort of a bit older and wiser, and you look back and you reflect, and you're like, wow, I'm so glad that happened. You sort of appreciate those mistakes, particularly having relationships with the wrong people in your business. There is a point where you sort of go forward and you're like, oh, thank God that happened. Because if that hadn't happened, I wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
And I could say if my business, certain things hadn't happened, I wouldn't have designed for George Jensen. I wouldn't.
Thank God for mistakes.
Thank God for mistakes.
Well, thank you very much, Jacqueline. I think we're going to have
Thank
some time
you.
for questions. Is that right? Does anyone have a question for Jacqueline?
Hi, thank you for telling your story. But as you said, it's very crowded right now. And what would be your suggestion, your advice to independent designers who has just started their journey on how to approach the business side and, you know, while not losing their own voice in design? Thank you.
The business side, or just the business side and not the creative side?
I mean both. Like
I think the creative side is the most important. They're both important, but on the creative side, I think you just need to go so deep into yourself, and it's almost like a meditation to find your language and to find the right direction for you. What do you want to do, and where do you want to place yourself? Do you want to work for a company? Do you want to have your own brand? And I think you just got to listen to what feels right for you and not what's going on outside. And don't follow. Just follow your heart.
Thanks.
Good advice. Anybody else have a question?
Ooh, hi. Sorry, I'll stand. I was just wondering, because I love the kind of nerdy history of it all, but when Barney's found you and picked you up, how did they find you? Were you in your studio, and did they come searching, or kind of how did you first present your very first collection that we kind of saw on the screen earlier?
So I was working, when I first arrived in London, I was working for another jewellery gallery, and it's a funny story, but not funny for them, but they just said, oh, Jacqueline, you know, Barney's are coming to see all the jewelry that we have, and can you show them the collections? I'm like, yes, of course, no problem. So they came, and there were 8 different designers, and they came, and they only chose mine, so I felt really bad and good at the same time. Seriously guilty, and that's how that literally was how it happened. That's how it happened, and that was the start, and that's where. So in those days, once you sold to Barney's, and then everyone else followed. And once you sold to 10 Corso Como, everyone followed. Once you sold to Colette, everyone followed. And so I ended up selling to all of those stores.
Do you sell that collection today, Raw Elegance?
No.
Would you ever go back to explore that?
What do you think? Should I?
I love it. Now is the time for the
Advise
90s.
me. You're
after
the
all.
great advisor. Maybe I should. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm sure there's more to explore there as well.
Yeah, I think so. But I think my work is become so much more refined over the years, as it should be, that I might, maybe I should pick up my sculpting tools and start making some handmade pieces, which is moving in a different direction. Yeah.
Anyone else? Oh, good. Yes, we'll come to you next.
Okay. Can I? Yeah. Thank you so much. I love you so much.
Oh.
You're the reason I'm making jewelry as well.
Oh.
And I wanted to ask you, in this beautiful journey, I guess your team is also super important. You found your team long time ago and you stick to them, or what is your process nowadays? Do you have, let's say, a group of talented people around you who are with you for a long time already, or would you say something about that?
Yes. So I've worked in different ways. So in the beginning, when I first moved to London, I had a studio and I had a team of jewelers upstairs making every single piece on the premises. I had PR. I did the thing that most people think they have to do when they are running a business, is hire a lot of people. And that was okay, but it was exhausting, and I'm not going to pretend. And so I just thought, I'm not going to do it the way that you're supposed to do it. And then in that moment, thank God, George Jensen came along, which meant I didn't need to have a lot of people around me. So now the way I work is I wake up in the morning, I speak to Copenhagen, I speak to London. Lucy's here in the back, my assistant. I speak to her, and then by the time I get going, they're closed down. So it gives me a lot of space to work, so I'm alone. I'm not alone. I have Wei Long, who works on all the beautiful CAD drawing. So everyone's freelance, and it's this really big decision I took, because I found that having too many people around me on a daily basis just stifled my creativity. And I had to stop it. So I'm not working the way most people think you have to have a big studio with all these people and, managing all these people. I don't want to manage anybody. Everyone that I work with are excellent at what they do. There's no need to manage anyone. They're just managing aspects of my business, and it works really, really well.
I think that's really informative for people, though, starting out, is that there are different ways to be successful. And
there are.
Yeah. And it's listening, again, to your own voice.
Absolutely. And doing what's right for you.
Trust.
I speak to so many people that are younger people that think, well, I can't do it because I haven't got, an in-house this or an in-house that and all these people around me. And I'm thinking, you can do it by yourself. You just have to do everything. And it's actually good to know how to do everything. So when people walk away, as it's happened to me in the past, you can pick up the pieces. You don't need anyone.
That's a good question. We'll come up to you. Oh, okay. Can you project?
Yes. I love your work so much, and I'm really glad to be here. I wanted to circle back to Africa.
Yes.
And your journey to Senegal,
Yes.
Nigeria.
Yes.
99%.
Yes.
And I am researching, coral beads, because in my culture that's
Yes.
what we wear.
Yes.
And cowrie shells.
Yes.
So I just wanted to understand, how would you ever work with an archival material from the ocean, or, well, I know these stones are from the ocean, but would you incorporate some sort of African visual language to your newer work?
Yes. I mean, I've been asked to, in particular, working with the coral in my work, which is something I really want to do because it has so much history, especially in Nigeria, and it's beautiful. And it's got a lot of meaning, but I'm just exploring how I'm going to do that. Yes. Yes. Yes.
I'm really excited to see like how your team and yourself will just bring that up for modern wearable arts.
I have a friend who lives in Lagos, and we talk about it. We've been talking about it for 5 years, so hopefully it will happen one day. Yeah.
Watch this space.
Yes.
We have time for one last question. I don't know. Hi. Here we go. It's coming. It's right behind you.
That was fascinating. Thank you. I was curious, as someone, I joke and say I'm a poacher turned gamekeeper because I used to be a Vogue editor and Hollywood stylist, and then I moved into sustainable materials. And as I've moved into that space, I found myself increasingly wishing I could dress like Patti Smith and just have men's clothes and loads of jewellery. And of course, I don't dress like that because I'm a magpie. But I'm curious because when people say to me, how can I be more sustainable in the way I approach my wardrobe, whatever price you're on, I say just buy a uniform from the Row or equivalent to the Row, whatever your price point, and just invest in jewellery. But then they say, but jewellery's really hard to know if the stones are ethical and that is the gold recycled. And so is that a question you're finding more and more, that people are asking more and more about the kind of supply chain or the transparency or any of the provenance? Or do you think it matters less in jewellery?
I think it matters, but I don't get asked that question very often, to be honest. I think people just sort of fall in love with the design and they don't think about that necessarily. That's my story. It might be different with with a bigger brand, for example, you know, working with ethical materials and diamonds, and I'm sure that is a subject. But for me personally, no.
Okay. Yeah.
But I'm conscious.
It's complicated, isn't it? Because once you start going down that road, it's very hard to be completely, you must know this from your own work, to be completely ethical. You know, if you give yourself that stamp, then I spoke to one designer who said that they try to do the best that they can.
Yes.
And then when they can do better, they'll do better. But it's not, you know, metal and gems are not
always ethical.
No, and they're not.
But we do our
traceable.
best.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Thank you. Oh, hello.
I think because my work is pretty much, you know, made from silver or gold. I work with a manufacturer in Barcelona. They're amazing. They produce the jewelry for Tiffany, and so everything is ethical because it has to be, because they produce for Tiffany. So, I mean, I do as much as I can, but it's sometimes difficult to be completely ethical. You're welcome.
Thank you very much, everybody. Oh, I forgot to use my mic. Thank you, Jacqueline.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure talking to you, and I hope everyone stays for a drink. Thank you.
Thank you.